This is a demonstration of SpatialXL in terms of the feature of using protected files in SpatialXL. SpatialXL is an add-in to Microsoft Excel which gives Excel spatial functionality by opening up a map area inside Excel so that your points and data and other kinds of data sources, not just Excel data but databases, can be mapped and usable inside Excel. Makes it very easy to use. We've got a full demonstration of this product, so this particular feature is not related to a general demonstration. This demonstration is specific to using data in such a way that the use of that data is controlled. So if you are a provider that sells data, for instance, I've got a data set here from one of our data partners that gives us demographics information. These data sets are often very, very valuable and sells for a fair amount of money, and we wouldn't like this to fall into the wrong hands or be used outside of the licensing agreement of the data. SpatialXL gives a certain amount of protection to this data, and I'm going to show you how that works. And this is for any data, not just for the data that we are demoing here. So what I'm going to do is just show you how this data looks. So this comes from an Esri shapefile, which is saved over here. So just a normal shapefile. And when we go into Save Layer Data to File, you can see here that we can save it to any of these formats, because shapefiles are very open formats. We can read it, write it. It can go into different kind of formats, etc. Even kind of CAD formats, CSV files, etc. So it's very open in terms of the usage. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this as a special type of file which is not open and will protect the data. So this is a spatial view file, and I just wanted to call this demograph protected. And when we're going to save this inside a protected SVU area, and we go on to save. So this is all the fields of the data which comes from the original data table from shapefile. So we'll just select the default here, and then in metadata we're going to tick it on as protected. I'm actually going to lock this to my exact machine. I'm going to put an expiry on it, and I'll expire it. In fact, I can expire it exactly a year from now. And we can put an attribution to show the ownership of this data as well. So this will cause a few things to happen. First of all, it won't be able to be loaded on anybody's machine except my machine. So even if somebody else has SpatialXL, which can read SVU or spatial view files, which is our own protected format or our own special format, they will still not be able to use it unless they get a special version of this data file. The other one is the expiry, and this is very important because very often we sell annual licenses for the data, and when we do, we don't want them to use it for longer than a 1 year period without paying. So when we go save, it will save this as a spatial view protected file. Great. So now we can actually turn this layer off. We can even delete it. In fact, let's remove this layer, because when you give the data now to the client, you're going to give this in a protected file format. So when they get their SpatialXL license, they'll also get their data license. So to do this, I'm going to actually go to where the data is saved, and here we're going to go and protect it, and that's the file we're going to load. Right, so here's the data loaded as a protected file format. We'll do a quick styling just to show you one of the themes that we can quickly apply to this. So I'll just do a population density theme. You can see it's all of the same data that we had before. And we can pick up You can see the population density. Just wanted to turn off my borders. And it is the same data that we had in the shapefile. Now the nice thing about this is that if you try and save this data again, so you go File, Save, Layer Data 2, and now you see that it will only allow spatial view format. It won't save back to a shapefile. Let's just pretend that we're going to save it as another spatial view format, and you see the metadata is unchangeable in this case. So this will not work on anybody else's machine. It will expire on that date, and it doesn't just depend on computer date here and time. It also depends on other factors that we pick up in the system. And the attribution will show, as you can see here, the words GTI. We've got a Google Maps layer as well, but the words GTI also appear because that is the owner of the data. So you can't even remove the attribution of the owner of the data. So that's a lovely way to protect data. Now, what could happen is sometimes when you sell data, some clients have maybe spent a lot of money on Esri systems or MapInfo or whatever other systems they use, and they don't always just want to use SpatialXL. In that case, what they can use, or what they can do, is if they get SpatialXL with a data set, they can use SpatialXL as an extraction layer of their data. And I'll show you what I mean with that. So even though we can't save the entire data set, which is correct, you also don't want people to do that, we could actually do a aggregation of a smaller subset of the data. So let's say in here we're going to make a new, let's just do a 2D circle, or just a circle. And let's say of this area we want to find out more information. We'll create a new layer for that. I'm just going to call this area. And we can just make the styling. So here we've got an area that we've drawn. Now we can pick up some information of this base layer of demographics. So let's say in this particular area that we've got, we can do an aggregation. And we're going to aggregate from this protected file into this area. And let's just give some simple things that we can aggregate. So let's say that we want to aggregate all the male and the female people in this area. Just a very simple aggregation. And we make it proportional so that when we cut into a particular enumerated area, we'll take a percentage based on which areas is inside and which areas outside. So now we've got a new layer here, which is internal to this workbook. And if you're looking at the, let me show you the actual data in this, you'll see that now we've got the male and female sum of population in this area. And this new aggregated layer, we can save to shape files, SVU files, any files that we want. As long as these files are not too big, and as long as they're very specific queries, the program will allow us to do this. So in this case, they can use SpatialXL as a basic data extraction layer to get the value out of the data sets for their own particular store radiuses, etc. Pull out that exact aggregation, and that they can then further use back in Esri shapefile, like as a Esri shapefile in the Esri GIS systems like ArcGIS, or even other types of files, even files on Google Maps, for instance, like KML files as well. So that way your data is protected, it expires, and the only price of the entire thing is that they have to use SpatialXL as a basic data extraction package, or they can do all of their work in SpatialXL. We're quite happy with that as well. So there you go. That is a demonstration to show you the value of using SpatialXL to protect your data. Thank you very much.